Howdy peeps, back again for another Therapy Thursday. Oh, I've been really contemplating what am I going to talk to you guys about. And I've sort of sat on an idea for a couple of days. And then today I just exploded. I just had an emotional outburst. Cried and decided to come up here for a dog walk, so hence why I'm looking a little bit windswept. And I just decided just to fucking let it all go, and then it became clear what I had to talk about. And it's this thing of grieving someone or something who is still alive or still very much in your reality. So we're very conditioned, and we're taught, and we have practice over the years of learning to deal with the grief when people die, or when things die, or when things end, such as, pets. They're probably our first experiences of death and grief and losing something we dearly love. And then it'll probably be grandparents or older relatives. But there will be times when we experience devastating grief, which could be the loss of a parent, the loss of a child, a sibling. And there really are no words to describe what that does to a person and the devastating effects that it has on us emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, everything. It affects our entire being, because we have poured so much of ourselves, so much of our heart and soul into this connection that we have with these people. And they become part of our daily lives. They become part of who we are. They're part of our identity, how we go about things. We learn from these people or these pets or whatever, and then one day it's gone. And it's fucking devastating. But in some weird way, our minds and our bodies seem to know how to deal with that kind of loss, that kind of grief, that kind of pain. Oh my God, there is a big ginormous rat. There's a big... Sorry. I've just had to open my door to try and scare it off, because I don't want it climbing into my motorhome, because I think I had a rat when I was up in the Peak District. I'm pretty sure it clambered up one of my pipes, because in the morning I found all my bags of flour just chewed to bits, but it's gone since, thankfully. So anyway, that was a weird interruption. Sorry about that, Mr. Rat. Oh, Roland, buggered off now. So, sorry, where was I? So yeah, sorry, I'm keeping one eye out in case it comes back. So in a weird way, we sort of know how to process that kind of grief. It doesn't make it any less painful. And obviously we know there's no time that, is the right time to accept it or live with it. Because that's essentially all we do. We learn to live with it. We learn to live with the absence of things. And we adapt, right? We carry on, we grow, other things, take place. We get back to work, we focus on our friendships, our social life, the remaining family members. We throw ourselves into other things that we may not have done had it not been for that experience of grief and losing someone. You see people who, when they've lost a loved one, that they go off and they run marathons, or they climb Everest, or they set up a charity, or they completely change their life and they move halfway around the world. there's instances in our life that propel us towards great things. You know, out of something so devastating can come something beautiful. But in that process of grieving, we're given the grace, we're almost given the permission to cry and be upset and to be angry and frustrated and to have our good days and our bad days, and, you know, to lash out and do all these things. We're kind of given this almost permission slip by society to say, oh, well, you know, they're allowed to be like that because of this. And it's kind of like an understood thing. But the one grief that we don't talk about enough, which is just as devastating, is losing someone or something when they're still alive or they're still around you. And what I mean by that is not just romantic relationships when you break up. It can be friendships that over time just disappear. It can be your children, you know, moving out, going to university, or leaving the family home to move in with their partner or whatever. It's, you know, it's family members perhaps that move away. It's, you know, people that we're in love with who, for whatever reason, aren't in our lives anymore. And that's a whole new world of grief that we don't ever really explore, and we don't give enough sympathy to. Because I myself going through it. I'm currently daily processing the grief of not physically being with the person that I love. And I do the same as I would advise everybody else. You know, just focus on the good times, be grateful for what you had, remember them lovingly, remember the good things. You know, eventually over time, all of the negative stuff will go, the arguments, the upsets, you know, the harsh words, replaying conversations, text messages in your head, wishing you could have done things different. If I'd have said this, that wouldn't have happened. And if it hadn't gone this way, maybe things would be different. But the fact is, they're not. And I think that's one of the hardest things when you grieve something, even if it's losing a job opportunity, losing a large sum of money, because of the potential that it held, because of the opportunity that was there, because of the possibility that we saw in that future timeline. We saw a potential loving relationship that could have gone the distance. We saw a job opportunity or a dream about to be fulfilled, and then for whatever reason it doesn't happen. You know, even your kids, you know, going to university or moving out. We know it's going to happen eventually, but when that day comes, fuck me, it hits. Now, I kind of did mine in reverse, because when I moved into this motorhome, my son went to live with his dad. But that was a grief, like, wow. When you've had someone who's like your shadow for the best part of 14, 15 years. You wake up with each other, you go to bed with each other, you spend every day together, you spend every weekend together, and then all of a sudden one day that person is just not there. And you know all the reasons why. You know that this is the best thing. You know that it's not permanent. You know that things can change. You know that everything is going to work out and it's fine. And over time you get used to it, you adapt. It still doesn't take away that feeling of of emptiness or that loss or that grief that you feel. And sorry, the lighting here is a bit iffy. Let's see if I can change that a little bit. Oh. So it's not great, is it? So I just think we need to give a lot more compassion to ourselves with things like this, with things that concern grieving people and situations that we saw so much potential in, that we invested time, energy, love, money, care, and then you suddenly see it gone and you think to yourself, what the fuck was all that in aid of? You know, you pour every ounce of yourself into this person or situation, and then there you are, left without them. And it doesn't make any sense. And in your heart, you're feeling to yourself like, well, you know, maybe it just wasn't meant to be. You know, maybe there's something better. Maybe it'll come around in a different way, you know. And most of the time we can look back in hindsight and we'll say, oh, you know, I'm glad that relationship ended because otherwise I wouldn't have met my actual forever person. I'm glad I didn't get that job in the end because it spurred me on to create a business, which is actually much more fulfilling. You know, that friendship ended, but actually 2 years later we bumped into each other, reconnected, and now our friendship is better than ever. So there is a positive take on this. You know, and I've known from my own experiences, and I'm sure you've had it too, where in the moment it feels like your world has ended. It feels like the worst thing imaginable has happened. You're not sure how you're going to get over it. And the worst part is you'll have people around you saying, don't worry, you'll find someone else. Don't worry, there's plenty more opportunities. Don't worry, you'll find another job. Just forget about it. Just move on, let it go. These people clearly have never felt what maybe we felt. Maybe they haven't. But to tell somebody to just get over it, to just forget about it, to just move on, to just find someone or something else to replace it is pretty fucking mad in my eyes. It's not healthy. Because all you're doing is you're just pushing it aside, avoiding it, trying not to feel it, trying to pretend that it doesn't matter anymore so that you'll get over it quicker. And usually what happens is you'll suppress and you'll numb and you'll go out with mates, you'll start drinking again, or you'll take up a new hobby, or you'll go to the gym, you'll get fit, you'll date someone else, you'll try and get into another relationship to try and forget the last person. And it just leaves you feeling miserable because you still haven't addressed that emptiness, that void, that grief and that pain that is still in you. So the big question then is how? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the grief of losing the love of your life? Now, they're still alive and you know where they are and you would give anything to be with them and talk to them right now, but you know, for whatever reason, maybe it's just not the right time, maybe it's too soon, maybe, you know, you're not ready, you know, it's many reasons. And just because you didn't get that opportunity, does that mean you should give up on your dreams completely? You know, the opportunity fell through. Maybe because in its current version, it wasn't the best option. Maybe you need to sit with it. And therein lies the answer. How do you process the grief of losing something that still exists and still could become the very thing you want? You could still get back together with that person. You could still reignite that hobby. You could still reconnect with that friend. You could still start up that business. You could still chase your dreams and goals and make them even better, because now you have a different perspective. Now you have hindsight. Now you have growth. Now you have awareness. Now you have more understanding, more compassion. Maybe you've even discovered some things about yourself or about the situation that actually improves it for the whole scenario. But the only how of dealing with the grief of having to let go of something that still exists in your reality is the acceptance of it. And to not rush it, to not deny it for a start. Do not ever deny, suppress, minimize, or cover, mask the feelings you're feeling. If you are still brokenhearted, then fucking own it. Hands up. I'm still fucking brokenhearted 3 months later, and I'm still just as heartbroken as I was 3 months back. But I'm learning to live with it. The biggest mistake I made is trying to convince myself that I was okay with it, because I knew it wasn't the end. I knew that it was going to transform. I knew that this person and I would reconnect. I knew that this was someone that I loved dearly and had feelings for me. I knew somehow, some way, it would all work out. But sometimes what that does, it stops you from actually being present with what's going on inside of you right now. Because you're constantly living in the future of the what if, of the when it finally, and that's actually not healthy. So I'm speaking from experience here, that I've come to this mad realization that to deny what you feel will make it 10 times worse and will make it last 10 times longer. To avoid what you're feeling will only increase the intensity. To allow yourself to be pulled off course by other people around you through their, good meaning, they mean well. But you have to honor yourself. So if someone's telling you to just get over it, tell them to fuck off. If someone says, oh, well, it just wasn't meant to be, tell them to fuck off. If somebody says, you'll find someone else, tell them to fuck off. If someone says, well, it can't have been that good a relationship anyway, tell them to fuck off. If somebody says, well, clearly it wasn't right for you, tell them to fuck off. Whatever anybody says to you that doesn't align or doesn't help the way you feel, that isn't compassionate, that isn't supportive, it isn't loving, and like I said, we know these people mean well because they just want to try and pull you out of that, but you should not leave that grief state until you are ready. Now, don't wallow in it. Fuck no. Don't spend a week in your pajamas eating ice cream, chocolate, pizza, lying on the sofa watching fucking box sets of Friends or Top Gear or whatever you're doing and just crying. Allow yourself some time to do that. Give yourself a couple of days maybe, but don't allow yourself to stay down there, okay? The point of processing emotion is that you release it. You don't store it. You don't hold on to it. So when you're crying, you are releasing. The important thing is once you've allowed yourself to fully just bleh, cry it out, scream, get angry, whatever it is, once you've released the emotion, do something for yourself that is uplifting. So whether that be going to meet a friend for coffee or go for a swim, go for a walk, buy yourself something nice. Maybe look at where you are and what the next step for you would be. If once you finally process these emotions and you've accepted where you are and you've accepted the situation for what it is, then you can start to take steps towards rebuilding. And it's not about rebuilding your life or anything like that. It's about rebuilding your inner safety, your inner peace, your inner love. It's being able to start to come back to life almost. It's starting to, see the silver lining, look for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, start to integrate back into life, you know, and that can actually make you, this is one of the blessings of it, is that if I hadn't been in separation with this particular person, it wouldn't have given me the fire inside me to start working on my fitness. It wouldn't have pushed me to start taking steps towards my goals. It wouldn't have pushed me towards doing some of the mad adventures that I'd been on. But I also realized that some of that was escapism. And I'm confessing now, I have used things to numb and suppress my feelings. At one point, I just wanted to block the world out and disappear and just hide in my bed and just feel nothing. I just wanted to feel nothing. So I allowed myself to do that. And I've spent the best part of probably 2 months numbing out, doing whatever I needed to do to just get through the day so that I didn't have to sit with this feeling of sadness and emptiness. And the same has happened with career opportunities. I've had some amazing things land in my lap. And then I will get this anxious worry, this fear of, oh shit, you know, once I take this step, there's no going back. You know, once I make this decision, I've got to commit to it. Once I send this email, I've got to follow it up. And the pressure becomes a lot because you're kind of going into the unknown. You're doing things you've never done before. And while that kind of shit doesn't scare me, I think the key part is you know when you're ready. You know when you're ready to move on. You know when you're ready to take the next step. You know when you're ready to try again. And you should never force yourself to do it before you're ready. So I've sat with an idea for about 3 years. And I convinced myself I wasn't ready. And you know what? There's actually some truth to that. Some of it was fear. But actually what I've learned in the last 3 years has been so beneficial and so helpful. And you know what? Having that trust and that faith and just doing the things that made me happy and just trying to live my best life and be the best version of me that I could be has actually brought more opportunities to my life and has actually brought me full circle almost back to where I started, with more clarity, more awareness, more understanding, more knowledge, more contacts, more doors to knock on. So in some ways it was a bit of an essential process. So yeah, if you are in that state now where something or someone you really, really felt so passionately about, so sure about, that you would have bet your life that this was your person, this was your business opportunity, this was your money-making scheme, this was your best friend. Don't let go of that. You can still have 2 things running simultaneously and both be true. You can still believe that this is the love of your life, but accept that right now, it's just not happening. You can accept that, okay, right now, this job opportunity is just not happening for me. But you can still desire it. You can still pursue it. You can still chase your dreams and goals, even though this particular thing didn't work out. You decide. You decide how you want this to go. But the most important thing of all of this is that grief is a very individual thing. It is purely your experience. No person on the planet has the right to tell you how you should or should not feel, how you should or should not process your grief, how you should or should not go about your life, unless it is obviously of harm to you or someone else. You know, if you're going to start driving recklessly or turning to drugs and alcohol as a long-term solution, then obviously we don't want anybody going down that route. But you do what you need to do to get you through the days until you reach that point where you wake up and you say, okay, I'm done. I'm done feeling like shit. I'm done wallowing. I'm done worrying. I'm done waiting. I'm done. I want to be happy. I want to chase joy again. I want to find pleasure in the simple things. I want to go out with my friends. I want to start dating again. I want to revisit that dream, that goal. I want to book that plane ticket. I want to go to that place. I want to go to that concert. I want to get a haircut. I want to change my wardrobe. I want to buy a new car. I want to fucking do whatever the fuck I want to do. I want to do it because I'm ready. Not because someone else told me to. Not because society said that this is how long it's supposed to take and then you're all fixed. No. You do it when you're ready. And you've got to find the right support. Because that's one thing that I've realised is that I don't have a lot of the right support around me. I have people around me who understand and who are there if I need to talk. But I just know that their advice is going to be exactly what I've just said. It'll be, just find someone else, just move on, just forget it. So you'll find someone better. It's not helpful. It's not helpful when you're deeply in love with someone or when you've got this amazing dream or goal and the people around you who you care about are almost trying to say to you, quit, give up, don't bother, just let it go. And you know in your heart and soul, this is for you. This is meant for you. This is yours. This is your destiny. This is what you want. This is your desire. So never let any fucker tell you. Never let any fucker tell you when or how to grieve. Just look after yourselves. Don't do anything stupid. And give yourself grace. Give yourself humility. Give yourself patience. Find one or two people that you can go to who will allow you that grace and that patience. Who won't rush you. Who won't force you. Who will just support you. And if you haven't got anyone like that, there's always me. So I hope this was helpful. Yes, it was a bit of an emotional one for me, but fuck it. This is who I am. Keeping it real. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Have a good day. And I'll speak to you all again in another video. Take care. Bye. Love you all.